Hi, I'm Jeffrey Craner, and my friend Cecil Baldwin, he loves horror movies, and he's helping make this genre more approachable for me, and hopefully for you too, one film at a time, in a random order. You squeamish about horror movies? Don't worry, we will tell you what happens. Do you adore horror movies? Great, watch along with us each week. This week, we randomly rolled a 4 for Alien and a 4 for Australasian. Here is episode 56.
This week on Random Number Generator Horror Podcast number 9, Incident at Raven's Gate, 1988. Warning! Spoilers ahead.
In the late 1990s, the Houston Grand Opera staged Hansel and Gretel with set designs by Maurice Sendak, writer and artist of children's books, most notably Where the Wild Things Are. I saw this opera, and I don't remember the music, but I remember the sets and lighting. It was stark, dark, with splashes of color. There were moments when the backdrops were clear and obvious, like the witch's house, which looked straight out of a storybook. The roof had eyes and a wart-marred nose. But sometimes the artwork was twisted and surreal. The forest trees spiraled up and in, forming neatly around a bulbous white moon. The effect was chilling, still in the world of a children's fairy tale, but growing darker still. I loved the show, even though the story and music weren't my thing. The visual experience was wonderful and unique. But there was something about the end of that opera. The final sequence was an empty stage flooded with bright white light. A white scrim as backdrop further enhanced the radiance. It was stunning, but also somehow hollow. It felt like the producers ran out of money, that Maurice Sendak was making set piece after set piece, then some suit walked in and said, "Our budget's been reached. You can go home now, Mo." And he did. And in the final 15 or 20 minutes of this opera, there were no sets. I had a hard time knowing what I thought of this because it felt kind of like a give-up. You spent nearly 3 hours setting up the setting, and in the end, it didn't seem to be about that at all. The 1988 low-budget sci-fi horror thriller from Australia, Incident at Raven's Gate, is visually interesting. It plays around with surrealism and lighting and sound. It's a slow-burn horror drama in the all-too-real dystopia of an Australian desert. It flashes forward and backward in time, slowly revealing the titular incident. And our present-day characters are enigmatic. We can't wait to see where they go with it. And in the end, I'm not sure they went anywhere at all. It was just an empty stage and a bunch of words. I'd almost call it style over substance, but I wasn't really sure what I was looking at. Hi, Cecil.
G'day, Jeffrey.
Oh, no.
Kath and Kim. That's the only... Kath and Kim. That's about as much as my Australian accent goes.
Do you have a favorite opera? Have you ever been to the opera?
Oh, gosh. In all my years in New York City, I've only been to the Met once. And it was very early when I got here. And I saw a kind of children's matinee of The Magic Flute directed by Julie Taymor. And it was, it had been revamped a million times. And it was, a cold winter afternoon. I went with 2 friends of mine. And man, it's just so unbelievable. That space, one, because I had never been inside the actual grand opera space. And 2, just, Julie Taymor's so unbelievable at taking the fantastical and, kind of making it just gorgeous. Like, she just makes such beautiful, beautiful sets and costumes and lighting. But you could definitely tell it was a 11 a.m. call time because, wow, the Queen of the Night, she was hitting those notes, but she was not feeling it that day. It was her, she performed beautifully. They all performed beautifully, but it was definitely an early morning to warm up those vocal cords.
Sure, yeah. She was kind of running back up in the background, just going through the motions.
But I'm so glad I went. And I'm, I was super broke for most of my years in New York City. And I'm glad I got to see that one. I never got a chance to see anything sort of, a grand premiere opera or anything like that in New York.
Well, speaking of grand and fantastical and unbelievable, we have a guest this week. It is a returning guest. It is a playwright and a performance artist and co-host of Whiskey Flicks. It is Dan McCoy. Hi, Dan.
Hi, boys. Thank you so much.
Dan.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you are here.
Glad to have you back on the show.
Thanks. Jeffrey, fun fact, the last opera I saw at the Met was Hansel and Gretel. This was
Was
few
it
years
this production?
ago. No, I don't think so. I think it was a more recent production. I don't remember the stripping away that you're talking about. I just remember the final moment of Hansel and Gretel chomping down on the dismembered pieces of the witch that they have cooked in vengeance for their ordeal. But it was really, really fun.
They're good kids.
They are.
They have a bright future ahead of them.
Yeah.
So we rolled for this movie this week, and our style was Australasian, and our scare was aliens. So we landed on Incident at Raven's Gate, which is a movie I had never heard of. Cecil, I think you had to do some deep digging to find this. It was
tough, you guys. This was a tough category. I found two kind of like hardcore sci-fi modern films that were made in the last few years that were like Australian rugby guys versus aliens. That seemed pretty straightforward. And then we had sort of witchy woo-woo kind of aliens, but not really. And then after a deep dig, I found this Ozploitation film. And I'm really glad I found it. I really enjoyed this one, you guys.
Me too, and I'm glad you did too. I had never heard of it either, which surprised me because I haven't seen everything, but I've at least heard of most things. And yeah, the sort of X-Files Down Under was fun to dip into.
Yeah.
I like this movie a whole bunch. I really did. I was a little confused on the ending, so I'm curious. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about.
And I was confused at the beginning.
So I was confused by the beginning as well. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of information kind of being subtly fed to us in this opening shot. There's I think I will say this. I think the thing that's most endearing to me about this film is I like that they're playing around with sound and light.
Oh yeah,
throughout this movie in really interesting ways, and it's disorienting at times. Sometimes it's kind of funny, the weird helium voice in that house.
Oh my god,
I loved the helium voice.
I did too. I loved it a lot.
It was like you could tell that they were going for an effect. I'm not sure if the intended outcome was the same as what they wanted, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah. 1988, maybe the effects on Audacity were pretty limited. Yeah. You had helium voice and Satan voice.
For me, it was just really fun to see a movie working so within its limitations.
Oh, yeah.
That really all they had to scare us with is like floodlights behind a door. Very Spielberg, like very Close Encounters, I thought, in those sequences.
A fun fact, this actually, its original title was Encounter at Raven's Gate. But then they had to change it because it was a little too Close Encounters of the fourth kind?
Third?
Yeah, third kind? Ninth kind?
I didn't see the first two. So this movie opens on credits, and we've got a lot of... I had to turn on my captions on this movie.
Shut up. Was the Australian too much for you, Jeffrey?
Well, it wasn't the Australian accent so much as it was the music and the sound, the bed sound in this opening sequence. There's a lot of people talking over like CB radio.
Oh yeah.
About there's a UFO down, and there's loud music kicking in, and then there's they're talking about the UFO is moving. It's 10 miles east of Raven's Gate, and cops are going out to investigate. And there's a didgeridoo playing and some heavy breathing and just all of this. So I turned these on. It created a weird effect throughout the rest of the film because Amazon Prime is where I watch this. I think it's the one place in America it's available. And it's the captions on it happen about 5 seconds ahead of time. So I had to turn them off later because I would see somebody walking slowly through a dark house and everything's very tense. And then suddenly the caption would say screaming. And then a few seconds later, you would hear a scream. Wow. And I'm like, no, I'm not. This did not startle me at all.
You're prescient, Jeffrey.
Yeah. So we sort of get this notion that there is something has happened out at this place, Raven's Gate, which we learn is a hydroponic farm. Where we have Richard and Rachel Cleary, a married couple, and Richard's no good brother, Eddie, all live out there, and they're working on trying to find a way to basically farm water in this like deserted area. And they've managed to do some of it. Like they have a greenhouse. She's growing tomatoes and lettuce, and he's growing like a prize orchid, as we see later. But the way this is set up, we meet Dr. Hemming and Sergeant Taylor, and Sergeant Taylor is this cop walking through this house, and he's got his gun drawn. It's very tense. It's very, very horror movie classic, like light beaming through the windows, dust kind of drifting through that light, and everything else is pitch black. And then this this big police sergeant gets nabbed very suddenly, and his gun is taken away by this tiny little Dr. Hemming.
That jump scare was so good, you guys. Yeah. Like when he's inside that sort of dark room, and then like a hand comes through the window and like grabs his gun, and then it's like I think, Dan, you hit it on the nose. Like, because of the Ozploitation, like super, super low budget, like let's just make as many films as we can, as cheaply as we can. I think some of the camera tricks and some of the like extreme lighting and sound were so effective in this. And that first jump scare for me set the tone of the film. And I was like, boom, I'm in it. We're in a proper horror movie.
Even before we got to the jump scare, also just the creep through the house. In fact, anytime we have like really high contrast, big splatters of darkness, like and a lot of primary colors, like the cinematographer really knew what they were doing when it came to, like this scene is going to be very, very green. This scene is going to be very, very red. And what looked like it was shot in like a Super 8 camera, like kind of grainy, and but it was very effective the way that it was shot.
I feel very old man when I watch movies made prior to the late 90s, and you see everything is shot on film. Versus digital, and I'm like, this is so much better. I love this, particularly for horror films.
It has texture, right? It's just so cool to watch something that was made for a drive-in movie or essentially like a Times Square, grindhouse kind of thing, and it's just it's like an archive of a gone by era that we just don't experience anymore, because we all watch digital shit on our phones or on our Rokus or whatever the fuck, as opposed to like proper film.
And it was clear watching this on Amazon, which I did too, that there has never been a restoration of this print. What we're watching is what has been deteriorating since 1988, and I kind of was living for it.
Yeah.
This film, the filmmakers very clearly got hold of a crane. And I appreciate them for that, because there are so many soaring, rising, and falling shots, overhead shots. It was interesting because very early on we get a shot, of the satellite tower, and he gets a very high shot above this thing. So I actually thought maybe because the shot was so shaky, it felt like he had basically just tied through a carabiner to a remote control helicopter.
Yeah.
And just flew it up there. I think it was just early drone usage is what he was doing.
Or maybe they just had like a legit helicopter,
They might have. They might have had a legit helicopter. I don't know what he was doing, but I thought that was really cool. And he uses these like rising and lowering shots quite a bit. And you can tell when an artist has a new toy because they use that device constantly.
I like to think they lashed a couple of very tall ladders together and just had a couple of blokes at the bottom holding it steady.
There is no ocean
just climb
in Australia.
up there. It'll be fine. Yeah. Don't worry.
I don't know about this, guys.
So we have this Dr. Hemmings and Sergeant Taylor. This dynamic, I think where my confusion throughout the movie happened on them, and they're not in this movie much, but I wasn't sure the dynamic here. I'm not sure what Dr. Hemmings is after, and I'm not sure what Sergeant Taylor seems to be just trying to do his job. Like Sergeant Taylor, right?
Yeah, because he's investigating the missing trophy, right? Which like such a MacGuffin throughout this film.
Wait, now here's my thing. He's a different... Oh, yeah. So I got confused by the two cops.
Wait, there's two cops?
Felix was the one investigating the missing
two different
trophy.
Cops, and they
Taylor.
Listen, all white people look the same to me, identical.
Okay? They cast two 60-year-old white dudes who are kind of like wide-faced and gray hair.
Shit. I thought they were the same person, you guys, throughout the whole film.
Two different dudes.
Oh my god! What this makes so much. Okay, so we have the cop with the hearing impaired cop.
That's Sergeant Taylor.
Oh my god! And then we have creepy opera rapist cop.
That's Felix.
Right. Well, this movie just got a lot more complex because I legit thought I just saw like kind of ruddy faced Australian dude.
Yep.
And I thought they were the same. I'm glad we're talking about this film because I'm real dumb.
We get two incredibly competent cops for the price of one, which is Jeffrey's favorite horror movie trope: is cops who are good at their jobs, and we get double trouble in this movie.
Well, now that I know this, the cop that is sort of like being, helping under duress, this sort of, secret agent Hemmings, he was actually pretty good at maintaining a cool head. Yeah, he's a little bit of a dickbag, but at the same time, he's actually he kind of is working versus other cop, which we'll get to in a bit, who's, the worst.
Is a tool. Yeah.
I think goes beyond tool into bad person.
Oh, yeah, actual terrible.
Actual murderer.
Yes. The worst person in the movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sergeant Taylor, so here's my thoughts. I'm curious your thoughts, Dan and Cecil, if now that you know who this man is, maybe you have some on this too. So my guess is Sergeant Taylor was sent out as a cop, basically, as a on a beat, go check this thing out. Some weird shit went down because essentially we have some reports. So he's doing cop duty, whereas Dr. Hemmings is in some kind of Australian CIA sort of thing.
He's Mulder Scully.
He's actually in some secret government agency.
They call it the Special Branch.
The Special Branch. That sounds very secret government agency.
DSB.
So Sergeant Taylor, I think, because my question was, why doesn't Sergeant Taylor just beat this dude up and take his gun back? Well, but I guess because of
Agent Hemmings definitely has taken a few judo classes.
He has, but I still think by sheer force you could probably do something.
He's also he's hella smart. He's cool, calm, collected, has all the cards, and clearly kind of running mental rings around these sort of backwoods desert, guys.
I started thinking of Hemmings as the confident egg. He just exuded this sort of weird 80s macho confidence that even though it looks like Taylor could easily take him, he did get the drop on him at the beginning. He established dominance that way, and just through his, like you said, Cecil, through his smarts and his and I'm assuming that there's some authority with the Special Branch that this cop might recognize that it's okay, if this guy says that I'm helping him, then I'm helping him.
Yeah. So we learn in this moment that now we're going to go flashback 5 days earlier because we hear the names of Richard and Rachel Cleary out at Ravensgate.
I hated this. I hated the 5 days prior. I was just can't we just experience this movie in linear time, please? It would make it so much easier.
5 days earlier, and there's also the younger brother Eddie there too. So we cut to this farm and we have Eddie and Rachel, so not married to each other, but clearly flirting. Eddie's working on his truck.
We get a little East of Eden going on here.
Yeah. And there's a dead sheep under a windmill. As you texted me last night, Cecil, what's the deal with all the dead sheep in these movies?
Jeffrey, you and I cannot escape the fucking dead sheep on this podcast.
Who knew that was a device? We could just put that on a roll. Has to have a dead sheep.
I think we've watched them all at this point.
Okay, great.
Are you talking about Black Sheep?
We've seen Black Sheep.
Yeah, which was also an Australian, or was that New Zealand?
New Zealand. That's New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then we saw God Monster of Indian Flats.
Yeah, last week was God Monster, which was about a zombie sheep in Nevada.
Okay.
But that sheep, oh my God, that was the best / the worst.
I can't wait.
I can't encourage people enough to watch God Monster of Indian Flats, and then
I'm gonna
again, and then we'll lose all of our subscribers.
Have the bottle of whiskey at the ready, Dan.
Yeah.
It is within reach.
So this movie, the other thing this movie does a lot of is quick cuts, short scenes. We're talking maybe a page long, 3/4 page long scenes, and then instantly you're just someplace else. And other than the title card that says 5 days earlier, it doesn't. After that, it stops telling you where you're at.
Yeah,
which is nice, and I like that. So we have Eddie working on the car. We know this is the brother. Rachel's talking about something. He's just I'm working on my truck because I got to go into town and get my drink on. And then we suddenly cut to a shot of this old man, Bill, lying on the back at dusk in his front lawn. And we hear his wife, I think her name is Kate, shouting, "Tea's on!" And he's just, he kind of sits up, cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And that's it. That's our scene.
I loved that shot. I loved that first shot of Old Bill.
Yeah.
With his shaky hand. Like, there's something so menacing about that. Like, that's what I think this movie does so well, is that, like, you know, you don't get to see any aliens. Let's just put it out there. You never see any proper aliens, but, like, the sort of unease or menace permeates throughout. And I think they did an excellent job. And I wish there had been more of this character. Like, if he had kind of been more present in helping Eddie and Rachel and Richard kind of on their journey to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, he's a classic harbinger, you know, like the harbinger trope of, like, if you kids go up to that haunted cabin, you're gonna die up there. And he has that energy, but they never really use him effectively.
Yeah, because we only really see him in this first opening shot where we see him getting up from the ground, and then a little later outside the bar, he approaches Eddie in his car, doesn't he? And acts sort of weird and portentous.
Yeah, he literally's like, don't go up to Raven's Gate.
Right.
Yeah, he tells him to stay away.
Okay, all right, dude.
And then maybe I'm getting ahead of us, but and then we finally see him and Kate, I believe. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yes.
Get alien lighted.
Yeah.
And
they get welded together, basically.
Oh my God, just like scorched. And he has that line, God's will be done.
Oh yeah.
Which is repeated later.
Yeah. Eddie hops in his car and hops in his little truck, and he heads across the desert into town to go to the local watering hole. And while he's out there, we have Felix the cop. So we have Shitty Cop. So Shitty Cop starts tailing Eddie because Eddie's driving fast and recklessly and whatever else. And out in the desert, they both start getting radio interference. So as Amazon Prime's closed captioning told me, Eddie is listening to abrasive punk rock music.
It was not abrasive. It was definitely some like synth, like headbanger.
It was pop punk at best.
Pop punk.
Best,
I would say metal. That's more metal than punk.
Yeah.
But definitely a lot of like wailing guitars and like that sort of, you know, very, very 1988.
And Felix Shitty Cop is Sergeant Shitty Cop is driving along to opera music. So we know that he likes the high life. He likes or envisions himself in the high life.
He's an
aesthete. As we learn later, he's a mama's boy.
Oh my
super
God.
Violent and toxic.
Shit, y'all.
But yeah, it's interesting. Both their cars lose power out in the desert, and Eddie manages to get it kickstarted again and drive on to the bar.
Now, I gotta say one of the like kind of cool. I thought this was one is this use of color. You know, like they do this a couple times, you know, when people are in cars and you have kind of like the quote unquote dashboard light is lighting them very, very saturated blue or red. And also like they're card cutting between these two music styles back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But then they swap.
Yeah.
So now it's Eddie listening to opera and he's like, what the fuck is this? And the cop is listening to our, you know, sort of hair metal. And he's like, what the fuck is this? But what I love is the cop takes the cassette tape out of the dashboard and it's still spinning and still playing. And I was like, oh, how fucking creepy is that?
Oh, that flew past me. That's cool.
Yeah, because he's like, it's, you know, for those of us who are over a certain age and remember cassette tapes, like, how fucking creepy would that be if it's like you pull the cassette out and it's still spinning and you can still hear music? Like, you know, you're in a horror movie at that point.
I also love this, too, because my first impression was they were both listening to the radio. And so it made some sense that radio signals might cross or something. But the fact that the cassette tapes now have swapped what they're playing is really, really cool. At the bar, we do learn that Eddie Cleary, Eddie was in prison for stealing a police car, so that comes out. We also meet the Roughnecks, led by Bruce, who are hounding Eddie in a very homophobic fashion about not playing football.
A lot of like, do you wear a dress? You wear a dress. I bet you wear a dress. Ha ha.
He's basically like, stop trying to get me to wear one of your dresses. They wouldn't fit me. Yeah.
The 80s, where you could not escape the word faggot.
I mean, that was a pretty good comeback.
It was pretty good.
I was like, good on you, Eddie. And then he headbutts him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, did you notice like the only video game in the bar was Space Invaders?
Good detail.
Yeah.
Eddie is going home with the bartender, Annie, whom we had seen Sergeant Shitty Cop flirting with earlier. And he's basically, it sounds like at one point in time, these two maybe slept together and he never got over it. And he just can't understand why she doesn't want to continue seeing him. And he keeps forcing the matter. He's real whiny about it. And she's like, I can't, I'm tired. And he's like, you're always tired. And she's like, funny that, huh?
No, she actually says, oh, you noticed that as well, too? And I was like, bitch, get it. That is how you tell somebody you are not into them without telling them you're not into them. Awesome.
Uh-huh.
I've mad props for this because she's like very in charge of her sexuality, you know, like she's like, yeah, I'm the local hot bartender. What, you know, like she owns it, and in a very kind of like sexually liberated sort of way. I was like, good on you, girl.
And I have to say, some good use of camera work in the bar. Nothing establishes a dead dive bar looking somewhat cool by a long dolly shot.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Just drifting down the bar, and then we see Annie.
Yep.
We're like, yep, there she is. There's my mama.
That bar actually looked like, I was like, this is pretty cute. Like, you know, like this seemed like this seems like a nice country, you know, desert farmer bar. But, you know, with the exception of like these assholes that keep bothering Eddie for no apparent reason, like this, all right, I'd hang out here, or at least, you know, have a drink after work.
You know, that place has like Tuesday night $1 Fosters, right? Like, that would be perfect. Yeah. It would be great. So while Annie is, you know, hanging out with Eddie after post-coitally hanging out, we have Sergeant Shitty Cop like peering in through the doorway, being like, I've got to hear voices in there. I'm like, oh, you are established as the villain of this film.
Yeah. And he's all like, tap, tap, tap. Are you okay? I just came to check on you. And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Tap, 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 tap. Like, gross, dude. Oh. Come on. You're a grown-ass man.
If it was 20 years later, 20 or 30 years later, you know that he would be sending her text messages. Just like, you up?
Yeah.
5 minutes later, question mark, question mark.
Yes, absolutely. Oh. And then he gets caught like peeping at the window and does the like, oh, I dropped my hat. I guess I'm an officer of the law. I'm just pay no attention. Pay no attention.
There's an interesting cut here when we cut back to Rachel and Richard's house. And this is another interesting shot of like in the moonlight, which kind of makes everything look black and white, except Rachel is wearing her like sateen red, you know, nightie or whatever. And so it's interesting playing with color. I didn't quite understand what was happening here because she like gets up in the middle of the night and she grabs, was it a shirt, a robe, a blanket, and she starts cutting the fabric.
And she cuts the sleeve off of presumably one of Eddie's shirts.
Okay,
or
there
her
were
husband's?
Stripes on it, so my first thought was prison uniform.
Oh yeah.
But why would he have his prison uniform?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's something he would leave behind. But that was the first thing that jumped into my mind was like, okay, this is a black and white striped shirt. I don't know what prisoners in Southern Australia wore in 1988, but
no,
that didn't. So I don't think that's right. But that was because I had the same question. I was like, what's she doing?
Yeah, what is she doing? Well,
it doesn't ever. It really, from what I watched, it never came back. I don't pay as close attention to costuming, but maybe she wore it at some. I don't know. I missed this entirely.
Yeah, they have an interesting.
There was a whole quilting subplot that got cut.
You're like, I made you this quilt.
She's in a quilting bee. That's our B plot of this film.
Exactly. They're like, we don't need it.
No, cut it.
Save it for the director's cut.
Now we're back to Bill and Kate's house, and Bill knows something is coming. He runs inside. He and Kate are. You know, he knows it's coming, so he's like holding on to Kate, and Kate is like, what the living fuck is happening? And it's, as you said earlier, Dan, like they kind of create the tension without showing an alien. It's just bright lights beaming through the edges of a door and coming in through the windows, and we hear like a loud like whirring sound or whistling, and just all kind. It's almost like a freight train coming right at them.
Very close encounters of the fourth kind.
Very much so. And it finally explodes upon them, and they are gone at this point.
I have a location question. Are Bill and Kate the proprietors of Raven's Gate? Because when they go out, when they're outside, there is a gate with a raven on it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's why it's named that.
Yes.
And so the Clearys are not sort of on location at Raven's Gate when they're at home on their farm, or is it all kind of the same place? I was having a little trouble with spatial relations.
I think it's like, this sort of old couple lives in the farmhouse, but, was it Richard?
Yeah.
Richard and Rachel, like they own the farmland around it. So they're farming the land at Raven's Gate. It's kind of like their lower fields, because they have to go way the fuck out there. But I think this old couple is just sort of like on, like in the farmhouse.
But it's enough distance between the two that if aliens are blowing up the old people in the farmhouse, then those who
wouldn't hear it. They wouldn't hear it over.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I think so. Because they have to like a couple times Eddie has to drive all the way out there with that adorable dog. And he's like, it's a long way back, dog.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, you don't want to get in the truck? Fine, fuck you. I'm going back to the big house.
Dog's like, I'll show you.
I'll show you, dog.
We cut we cut back to present time with Dr. Hemming and Sergeant Taylor. Again, kind of these scenes don't really reveal a whole lot, but we see Sergeant Taylor. I have these out of order, but I think this is one where Sergeant Taylor is looking at photographs that he finds in Dr. Hemming's car, or in his, or in Dr.
He's sort of
Hemming's
snooping.
stuff.
He's doing
some snooping in the dude's briefcase.
Yeah.
And I think Sergeant Taylor knows that maybe he could physically overpower Dr. Hemming, but basically black sedans are going to show up and carry you off if you do that. So
and also,
he's
like,
trying to...
Agent Hemmings does like a kind of quiet sneak around and like, gotcha, The guy's like, how'd you sneak up on me? And you're like, well, it's probably not too terribly hard, but No.
Back into 5 days earlier, now we're 4 days earlier, whatever. We learned that the football trophy is missing from the bar.
No.
Oh no, MacGuffin. We have Richard now, so now we get some time with Richard. We haven't really spent much time with Richard at this point, and Richard might be the second worst person in this movie. Like Richard's kind of Richard doesn't seem criminal or violent. He just seems like kind of a shitty dude.
I don't know.
He's obsessed with his work.
I was like, I was on his side. I was like, until like the very end where I was like, wait, okay, one, you two are clearly having an affair.
Yeah.
And he knows, right? So he's actually doing an okay job of like with, keeping that in check. And like, it's just, I feel like this guy has put so much work into this farm, right? Yeah. And he's like trying to, he's really trying to make a shitty situation work. He's taken in his brother who's an ex-con. He has a super hot, smoking hot wife who misses the big city. And I don't know, I actually kind of felt for this guy, which is why I was very not confused, but like the moral ambiguity towards the end in which he went just sort of batshit insane. He went from like zero to crazy in the span of like 2 scenes. And I was not for that. I was like, this guy is actually kind of trying to make this work. The only sin that he's committing is not knowing that he's in a horror film. Like he keeps blaming his wife and his brother for admittedly very confusing, weird things. But he goes from like, wow, what happened to all the water? You should be doing your job, to like hobo with a shotgun attack everybody.
Right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was just going to say that I'm kind of on Cecil's side as far as Richard goes. He's not the most likable character in the film, far from it, but he does have a dream.
Yeah,
he thinks he's found an aquifer, which is like a big ass deal considering what they're trying to do out there. And I think that he like his sin is just lacking charisma.
Yeah,
for the most part,
totally.
Until he goes crazy, until he starts doing all the. But I think that he also he in a way falls victim to the paranoia of isolation, which feels like sort of a sub theme throughout this movie. Is in these vast, empty, open spaces, everything starts to feel like a threat, even things that are closest to you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I kind of took him as a counterpart to Felix in the sense that he's not insane at all. But I think there's like thematically an interesting counterpart, which is men who don't understand their relationship to a woman, and they don't understand the woman as an equal and fellow human being. And I think my thing with Richard and Rachel is that Richard is so into his work that he doesn't understand his own wife's needs. And in fact, the reveal that he knows they're having an affair was a real bummer to me, because I don't think if you realize your wife is having an affair and you don't confront it immediately, it sort of says you may not actually care that much.
Oh yeah,
you care that somebody is touching your object that you own. You know what I mean? It's sort of like not getting up the courage to tell your roommate, I can tell you've been drinking straight from my milk carton that I purchased. You should be contributing to that. That's an object that somebody is taking. You kind of find that. But there's something about like protecting the person who is your like spouse, or protecting you're protecting them, but protecting the relationship that hopefully you value. And so I kind of knew from early on, like, oh, he values his job more than he does his marriage. Yeah. So that's all I meant by that. But yeah, I get that.
You're totally right. And especially once, the sort of whether by aliens, because we do have this sort of theme of people losing grip on reality that have had these sort of close encounters with the aliens, it's always like, you shut up, wife. I'm talking to my brother. I have to hash this out with my brother, as opposed to dude, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing
let's all talk about this together as three
let's all talk
humans.
about it together. It was one kiss. We went, oh, this is a bad idea. And then let's, deal with that. But it just escalates and escalates because, Dan, I think you're right. Like the environment is so present in this film, both in like lack of water, like you feel we are in a desert, like it feels like a desert. And then also just that sort of isolation of wide open spaces, and the landscape can and may kill you even without aliens.
That's such a foreign concept to me. Like, have either of you ever worried about water? Have you ever worried about where your next drink of water is going to come from? I mean, for a period of longer than, I'm on the sidewalk, where's a bodega? But
I went camping in Southern California, sort of like Midland, California, and my boyfriend and I were like we had jugs of water because we knew that if we didn't keep hydrated throughout the entire experience, that like dehydration was a real thing. We'd also eaten a lot of weed candy, so it was just like kind of ongoing.
And 10 bags of pretzels.
And 10 bags of pretzels.
So dehydrated.
But it was, it was not a concern. But like when you do go out into that desert landscape, it's real. Yeah. It's real.
It is real.
Like choices that Richard is making will affect future hydration.
Yeah. And it kind of sets up with like the 3-minute shower. It's kind of funny,
Does anybody in Australia ever start a shower with their clothes off?
My God.
Is that an Aussie thing?
That's so
Everyone's
weird.
getting in the shower with their clothes on.
Well, now listen, that one, especially Rachel, in that was like, did she just get into the shower fully clothed? But then I thought about it. I was like, oh, it's water conservation. She's like washing the dust off her clothes and also showering.
Well done, sir.
Oh.
Is what I thought. However, it also reads as she is emotionally distressed and just can't fucking deal.
But it happened earlier
that scene makes so much more sense to me when she does that, because it just felt like an overwrought symbolic gesture that she would get in the shower.
It's very
Someone else did it earlier in the movie too. I can't remember who. But
Eddie. I think after Eddie did as well. He has his first alien encounter and he just like hops right in that shower. I don't know. Australians, please write in and tell us, do you all shower with your clothes on?
I'm guessing the folks in like Sydney and Adelaide are doing fine.
They even said, what? This isn't the Gold Coast, baby.
Darwin
we get down to our underwear before we get under.
Like we're never nudes out here.
So, let's go to Felix again.
Oh, Felix. Lord, this fucking asshole.
He's brought tickets for La Traviata.
Cute.
At the Sydney Opera House.
Cute.
To Annie. And Annie is like, oh yeah, hell no. And he's like, but we'll go to my mother's house for dinner first and then to the opera. And Annie's like, oh hell no. And he says, but it's Verdi. I had them booked 3 months ago.
My mom is making dinner.
Yep. I would have gone. Number one, I've always wanted to go to the Sydney Opera House. I've never seen La Traviata, as many operas as I've been to. Never seen that one actually live, and free dinner.
And free dinner.
Sure.
And all I have to figure out is how to get away from this cop at some point.
Oh my god, this dude is so gross.
That's a later.
My
So
favorite
gross.
line in this movie is when he says, "Annie, I love you," and she says, "There's not a lot I can do about that, Felix."
Yeah.
Right?
She's great. I fucking love Annie.
I know,
She's
right?
so good.
Love her. She's one of my favorite characters in this.
And also that apartment in which it's constantly like blue.
Yeah. Again, the primary colors. So good.
It's like she's living next to a lighthouse.
We've had a building storm to this point in this movie. Like there's like thunder and some lightning, and Richard's sort of comes the closest to addressing what this is. That he's like, it's just a heat storm. There's not going to be rain in this, but it's Felix driving home, cranking his sad opera music, basically crying into his pillow.
sad man tears.
Sad man tears, and it starts thumping down, and it is not hail, it is raining birds.
Yep.
Hallelujah, it's raining birds.
That's my favorite remix of that song.
Hallelujah, Amen. I just came up with that.
I love it. I love it.
Oh man.
This is when also we get the Richard starts having some of his freakouts because he's coming in and being like, the water's gone.
Yeah.
So you, little brother, and this is also a moment too where they think he's onto them about their affair.
Oh my god, right?
So they're both like, whoa, he's mad. Oh shit, well, I can explain.
At this point, has he seen them kissing on the porch already? Or
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. That shot was super creepy. I love that. It's very like, have you ever seen that movie Manhunter?
Yes.
It reminded me of that, of just like this sort of face, like just like a little crack of a face, in also lit high def and blue, just sort of peering through a screen gate and then like receding. You're like, oh, he gonna fuck them up.
But he's mad about the water usage, so he's kind of like chiding his wife for growing tomatoes.
How
in
dare
her
you
greenhouse.
provide us with food?
I know. And well, meanwhile, he's
and
growing
Swiss
a fucking...
chard. That looked amazing, by the way.
It did look great. And also, he's growing a fucking orchid. At least she's growing food.
Yeah.
Anyways, with that water. And, and he's blaming Eddie because one of Eddie's jobs is to basically check on the water supply every day.
Oh, yeah. Also, the dead sheep. We got the dead sheep.
And all of this.
But it's like, clearly, dude, something unusual is happening. At this point, and this is where I think Richard's, sort of hubris, if he has a fault, it is sort of like he's a little too wrapped up in his own bullshit to notice that he's in a horror film and that his wife and his brother, although they may have been smooching one night, they're still on his side. And I'm like, all three of you need to get in that damn car. You need to go down to the agricultural center, or there's got to be a mayor or whatever Australian city hub there is for this like little dusty outback town, and be like, weird shit is happening. Can we get this on record, please? Anybody else? Town meeting? Anyone? We've got trouble right here in Desert City.
Are we supposed to think that Richard thinks that the sheep died of dehydration? Because they tossed him on the fire real quick so the dingoes wouldn't get at him.
Yeah.
But that's what he
I think that's
assumes, right?
Yes.
But like they died of dehydration in the span of like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Also suspect, also unusual.
That's the thing where like Richard, you're right, Cecil, like as a character, his greatest fault is that he doesn't know he's in a horror film like that. He does not believe. Eddie is the one who knows he's in a horror film.
Yeah.
Actually, Bill is the first.
Yeah.
Bill knows away. We're all
Bill's
fucked.
like, you're all gonna die out there.
But Eddie starts realizing it too. So Eddie is out. It's after this incident where Eddie is, out in the he's out in the fields again. This is when he finds the crop circle. It's not a crop circle. It's just a perfect circle burned into the ground.
Big Bernie dot.
I know,
Big
right?
Bernie dot, and he touches it, and it shocks him.
Heat lightning.
Which I love this choice to like Eddie then has the shaky hand that the old man had. I'm just like little stuff like that, which for like kind of a low budget horror movie, the acting was pretty tight, I gotta say.
And these choices, these little simple things, when you have a low budget, you have to do all of these little things like that throughout the movie, I think. You should be doing it with a $80 million budget.
Yeah.
But I think these little things kind of add really wonderful, complex layers to what's happening here.
There's also a high frequency tone that we hear that I noted that, anytime there's a high, which was reminiscent. I think we skipped back the flash forward back to Taylor, where he's forced to go up on the tower with the binoculars to look around, and what's his face, the confident egg, makes him drop his hearing aid so that he can't hear the conversation that's taking place with him and one of the men in black there. And so this sort of like this auditory distortion and disruption is this reoccurring sort of motif throughout the movie that I think is pretty effective, because you need no money for that. Just like record a high pitched thing and drop it in there. But
and you get the feeling that they literally, took reel to reel audio and just like put their fingers on it to like slow it down or speed it up, like total low tech solutions. I love this, and also like it made me giggle in that, we have, not bad. We have not murderous cop, but the other cop, who's reading the lips of the two service agent, the two agents. Awesome. Like, I love this as a storytelling device. This is so cool. What an interesting way to do this. However, somebody did not give that note to the cameraman. And so he's like moving the binoculars too quickly. And so like people are still talking, even though he's looking at the wrong person. I'm like, okay, gentlemen, let's talk about continuity for just one moment, please.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was it total Ozploitation.
Really just like that scene.
But like, what a cool storytelling device to be like. It's reminiscent of like, sort of like Hitchcock, like Rear Window, like it makes us go like, oh my gosh, what are they talking about? Yeah. And he's reading their lips and he's like, I don't know. It's just like, what a cool storytelling device.
Well, I think also like, voyeurism, Richard witnessing the kiss and Peep and Felix looking through the keyhole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Eddie now is kind of like, I think something is going
he's losing
on.
His
something
shit.
is up. And so he kind of fucks off to go check on Bill, because he knew Bill was warning him about something. Yeah. So he goes to check on Bill. Meanwhile, Felix, shitty cop, shows up and is like, somebody stole our football trophy.
Oh my God. Listen, that's really important in Australia, apparently.
It's super, super important, Sergeant Shitty Cop. Eddie goes to Bill's house. Felix does follow him out there. I guess he figures out where he's going. And this is our first use of helium voice.
In the house that drips water.
Yes. So they're inside this house. It's very dreamlike. There's like a fog machine. I actually was wondering whether or not this was a hallucination happening.
Same.
Like all that stark lighting that we saw at the beginning. There's fog machine rolling shit through there. And anyone speaking when Eddie and Felix are both talking inside this house, they've got the high pitch. They just sucked on a balloon.
Straight out of like a 9-year-old child's birthday party.
Yeah, that's right. And they both so Felix is hunting Eddie, and Eddie is trying to find Bill and Kate. And at the same time, they see those bodies, and they are charred corpses, kind of all lumped into one big fused together.
Cool. Yes.
To me, looked like the house from Beetlejuice, just like no right angles, everything is skew, purple. Yeah. It was kind of purple, wasn't it?
Yeah, like kind of blue,
purple. And the camera is like tilting back and forth a little bit.
Dripping water, and
it's like, and it's very dreamy. Like it sort of drifts through. Everything is super shiny. I love this. Like again, like this sort of eco horror thing is like very present in that all the water that's been disappearing throughout town is all now concentrated in this house, and that makes it even creepier.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Like, that's where all the water's gone.
That's where all the water's going. Yeah. And it's just like, and it's just such a stark contrast from this dry, dusty landscape. And now we're in like essentially, like a humidor or something,
Somebody wore his film crit pants today. It's very exciting.
I noticed a theme, a leitmotif, if you will.
Moisture.
So I'm curious about this alien, because one of the things that it sort of seems to do is create visions. Mm-hmm. And another thing it seems to do is possess people. So two things happen when Eddie and Felix leave the house. For Felix, when he's driving away back through that desert, It's dark in the desert, even though it was light out when they were at the house, and there are like ghouls suddenly on the hood of his car. And this, I presume, is Bill and Kate.
That's what I thought too. It's like he's hallucinating zombie Bill and Kate,
right?
Sort of like grappling and scratching at his windshield from the hood of the car.
Dope.
Very scary. Dope. That was a scary scene, and I loved it.
It's super good.
I was like, this is where I was like, yes, we actually picked a horror movie this time.
And Eddie is attacked by his dog Jake and has to kill poor Jake.
Oh, poor dog.
Sad dog. About that.
If a dog I'd be like, sorry, dog, it's me or you.
That made me very sad. I like old Jake.
Yeah, unfortunately, this does not look good to Richard, his brother Richard, when he's like, sorry, I killed your dog. And like, this is the beginning of the end for like Richard's already starting to lose it.
Richard flat out slaps Eddie.
Yeah.
He doesn't even punch him. He slaps him.
Yeah. And he's like, I get the fuck out of my house, pretty much.
So the possession thing is interesting because later this kind of happens with Richard, but here it happens with Felix. And it made me wonder if the alien is possessing Felix or if it's bringing out something that already existed in Felix.
Yeah.
Because what Felix does next feels very Felix just dialed to 11 now.
Yeah, it's an unraveling. It's like taking the id and just being like, hey, I love opera. I bought you this dress. You'll look amazing in it.
Hideous dress.
Which at first I thought was just a nightie. I thought he was just like, here, this is for you in his tux.
Yeah, it's like, this is what every straight man is like, I want you to wear this. And every straight woman's like, that is ugly as fuck.
That's disgusting. And she does not want to wear the dress he bought her, nor go to dinner with mommy, nor go see La Traviata.
Nope.
She refuses, and he straight up kills her.
He pushes her head through a mirror.
Yeah.
This is like straight up Italian giallo, like batshit crazy. And it's all, again, we're in the like, her apartment is next to a blue lighthouse. So it's like super saturated with color. And it happens, I think, a little too quickly. Like, and this is one where I'm like, I feel like the horror movie lingering of it, like could have, like the tension could have been a little more. But this, I don't know. I was a fan just because this dude loses his shit on her.
Yeah. I got confused at first because I hadn't quite caught on that the aliens were possessing or at least the alien residue was having an effect on people who came in contact with it. And so I thought first I was confused that Felix had this like terrifying, just like, like send you to the Institute experience driving with the zombie zombies. People. And then all of a sudden he's here in a tux saying, but I have the tickets. Off we go. Here's your nightie. And so it hadn't entered my head yet that possession may be a factor here. And then when he mirror kills Annie, I was very upset by that. I was just like, no, you're okay. This is the kind of movie we're watching.
But from the moment when he locks her in, I was like, my spidey senses were like, this is not going to end well.
Big time.
Nope. But
then it's also very upsetting to watch him sort of fawning over her corpse and sort of weekend of burning her.
Yeah. And then just straight up dumping her body off a bridge and just driving the fuck away.
It was those scenes where the movie stopped being fun for me, and I was like, okay, we're in an upsetting horror movie now.
Yeah.
This was very sad because we go straight to violence against women here, and probably our favorite character in this movie.
Yeah. And also it's also like violence against women with no like that plot line never resolved. It's like there was no manhunt, there was no like and that's the thing is that, I expect, like when violence does happen in horror movies, oftentimes it takes the sort of morality tale, like, look what happens when you do X, Y, or Z, but this guy,
he gets
effectively
off the hook.
Gets away with it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the movie, not to jump too far ahead, but like the last time we see him is sitting in the opera house watching La Traviata and sort of weeping. Yeah. We don't know if it's...
I thought that was a dream.
Oh, really?
I thought, like he's having like a death dream in that moment.
Wait, do we see him die?
I'm pretty sure
do we see Felix die?
He's in the house, the drippy house, right?
No.
Oh, fuck.
No. Oh, Jeffrey, you guide us because I think.
I know.
Yeah, I don't.
What happened?
So we don't see Felix die.
Okay.
Yeah, he very well could have just gotten away with it. I think I agree with you guys on this scene that it kind of took the fun out of it. Kudos to the male writer and filmmaker for like having this really interesting woman in Annie and understanding a woman who understands her sexuality, is comfortable with that, is confident and strong and compelling, has great lines, and but unfortunately, for a character like that, if that person is going to die in a horror movie, I want to see her give chase.
Yeah.
I want to see her fight back. And she seems oblivious to the danger of Eddie, which is a bummer. It's a letdown here. But yeah, he tosses her over the bridge, and then we cut back to present day, and so we've got Dr. Hemmings and Sergeant Taylor, Sergeant Decent Cop, and they find her body thrown over this bridge. They find like, her dead body.
The dingoes ate her face off.
And
you're like, ugh, gross.
Man alive.
But then that whole plot line is dropped, and I'm like, what the fuck, yo?
Oh man, there's
like town meeting, y'all. We've got trouble right here in Australia City. Okay.
So we get back to Eddie and Rachel, and they've had these moments of like kissing, but then stopping on the porch earlier. There's a lot of sexual tension here. They're very flirty, and
they shower fuck. It's pretty sexy.
They finally get it on in this scene, and I love coming out of the shower. They get it on, and I love this scene because it cuts to the shot of the prize orchid, and we watch it wilt.
I know, just
sex is destroying the flowers.
Your husband's flower. Oh my god,
infidelity wilted.
The symbolism
the sex was so hot, he just burnt up those flowers to a crisp.
They couldn't take it.
Orchids are very delicate, y'all. Yeah, I loved the scene. I cackled. I laughed out loud when I got to the scene when they cut to that orchid wilting. Eddie is now going back out to the bar. So Eddie is now going back out to find out more about what's happening because Richard still doesn't believe him. And Eddie now has gotten a hold of the shotgun.
Yeah.
And he's driving back out to the bar because he wants to find anybody, right? So he's like, where's Annie? Yeah. And they're like, well, she went home with Felix last night. And I saw them drive out together. And I'm like, well, where's Felix? What's all this stuff? And then Bruce and his gang show back up.
Not answering his phone.
Bruce tries to throw some more homophobic comments. And I love this scene because Eddie just doesn't even give him time to finish anything. Swings that Smirnoff bottle and just cracks him upside
We are in the final act. Yeah. He's just like, I have no time for this bullshit.
Like that budget train spotting.
Yeah.
I'm fighting aliens right now, dude. I have no time for this like low-key bullshit.
Felix looking for the trophy when Eddie is discovering that there's something alien happening with the electrified crop circle. And then this scene when Bruce is like, well, you won't play football, you queer. He's like, crap, we have no time for your dumb shit right now. Nope. I love it so much.
We've got to wrap this mystery up, shall we?
And then we have Richard and Rachel fighting.
This is where I feel the character Richard turns. Yeah. This is where like my sympathy for him as just like, like he was not, because there was that scene that I quite liked in which they showed him young and cute wearing a Speedo and just be like, this was the dude I married. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was like interesting and fun and like, like an entrepreneur. And now you literally are looking right through me every time you see me. Not saying that it's your fault that I'm smooching on your brother, but like this marriage needs help. But it's this moment in which these two, I'm just like, dude, your brother's having a mental breakdown. Clearly. You are now experiencing some fucking weird like you saw a telephone catapulted through a fucking window and you still don't believe you're in a horror movie? Sorry, man. You're the antagonist. Yeah. You're now officially the antagonist.
Yep. He has this line. This is my favorite, meaning least favorite line reading in this movie. But when Richard yells at Rachel, he says, "I've got eyes in my head, Rachel." And it's just a weird, stiff moment where I was just like, I feel like maybe I would love let's just do a couple more times. This line.
Can we get just a few more takes of that?
Yeah. Or maybe just a different line, like, "I know you're fucking my brother."
Yeah. Like,
let's just talk about this.
I've got eyes in my head, Rachel. So we've got Richard and Eddie full on in a fight. Eddie's pointing the gun at Richard. Richard tries to wrestle it out of his hand.
Y'all, straight people in Australia are intense.
Yeah, it's really intense.
Straight people
and they're out near the barn. And this is when Rachel is at the house and she's calling on the landline. obviously a landline. It's 1988.
Yeah, she's calling Ravensgate.
She's calling the Ravensgate barn, and the phone just is ringing while they're fighting. And Richard still doesn't believe Eddie, and then the fucking wall of the barn explodes, and the telephone goes tumbling out into the field. And it's a little bit like, should we go see Bill and Kate now? And he's like, all right.
Well, and then he says, it's for you. I was like, wah, wah, wah. I love that. This is where like horror and comedy like live next door to each other. And I was like, ha, 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 ha.
So they go to Bill and Kate's house, and those bodies are gone now.
Ooh.
I don't know that we have an explanation as to where they went. I don't think we ever get the explanation as to where they went.
Maybe they just kind of melted.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe the moisture just sort of all that water being drawn away from the sheep is just sort of turning them to sludge. I don't know.
To goo. Yeah.
That's my answer. I don't know if that's the answer.
So the alien in this house takes over Richard. He gets taken over by the weird lighting. And he starts...
Because he actually said... This is where he says, God's will be done. Like, this is where some cool...
No, that's a little bit
like,
later.
La Mama Theater, etc. kind of like vocal layering kind of shit going on.
That's coming later, actually, when we confront Rachel. It's just in this house where he tries to get Eddie, and Eddie manages to escape the house and get the fuck back. But then Richard somehow gets in the back of his pickup truck, and they're fighting while driving.
Sure.
All the while, we have the helium voice effect. While there's a pickup truck fight. It's really great.
Why not?
Pickup truck fight.
This is when we get back to
the house.
Because,
fighting a driver while come on. I was like, what are you trying to accomplish here, sir?
Yes. You cannot fight the driver.
Don't kill your brother while he's driving. Like, just point. Point, counterpoint.
Yeah. Stay low in the back. He doesn't know you're there. Wait till he stops. Get out, kick his ass. Not that I've ever been in a pickup truck fight. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you were telling us your moves, Jeffrey.
I know, right? You're like, last time I was in a pickup truck fight, it did not get down like that. In the Outback.
7 habits of highly effective pickup truck fighters. So we get back to the house now. We're back to the Cleary's house. And Eddie... So this, to me, more than Richard, Eddie's turn at the end here, without being possessed by anything, was actually more disturbing to me.
Yeah, this is pretty questionable.
Because he ties her
He ties Rachel up. He is yelling commands at her. And I get that you're in a full panic. And you're like, I don't have time to answer everything. You just do what I say. I think that's the normal move in a movie like this. Like, honestly, I promise I will explain. Just help me board up the window.
Your brother's bad, or your husband's gone apeshit and he's after both of us. It's like for like 5 minutes, he just makes all the wrong moves.
And then he's kind of back to normal after that. It's just this one stretch that I did not understand why his character went so over the top. We're just boarding up doors, right? We're just doing the Night of the Living Dead thing. Like, board up the doors because Richard
why
is
is this bondage necessary?
Yeah. Right?
But you're right. Once Richard starts attacking, once he's on the prowl, then they're both on the safe side again.
Yeah, like that was like all like those weird 5 minutes really could cut all that shit out. Cut it all out, and then it's just the two of them against
and replace it with the quilting subplot.
That's right. Replace it with that she's winning the quilting bee, and suddenly Richard shows up, and they have to
explain why she was cutting up his fucking nightshirt.
But Eddie's just like, he's on the roof now. Now he's in the house. And, he's...
I loved all this.
This is great.
I mean, after we get out of the misogynist bullshit. But I love this, like, hunting through the house, I don't know. I thought this was really effective. And also the use of that basement, which was set up so early. I thought that was cool as shit.
I agree. I totally agree.
I had a different experience with it. This is where the movie started losing me. I like up until this point, and this is rare for me. I had not taken one break so far during this movie. I hadn't checked my phone. Like I was pretty engaged pretty much up until we got to we're inside the house and the thing is trying to get in, and it just went on a little too long for me. Nothing new was happening, and also this entire ending of the film where we sort of have a repeat event of what we already had seen with old Bill and Kate we didn't learn anything new. We didn't get any new information. It was just the same thing happening again. So there was I didn't need the aliens explained to me. I didn't need a big revelation, but I wanted something different to happen that I hadn't already seen in the first act of the film. And I don't feel like I got that. So like it was actually this climax of the film that was my least favorite part.
Oh, wow. It was missing a little bit of the tracking the killer through the house. But it did some nice things for me, which was like showing the missing boards on the roof, like where he's climbed in, and him tracking through. Also, the moment where like Rachel is digging around in the pantry or closet or something, and he thinks it's Richard, and almost shoots her. But Richard does finally make it in, and Eddie draws the gun on Richard,
and he's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a gun. Oh, I'm sorry. They get into this fight, and we have two guns now, right? So Rachel has the other gun, and she shoots Eddie. She's like, to keep him from shooting Richard.
Dude, fuck yes, bitch! Mm-hmm. Like get it, like just like I am so tired of the two of you. Yeah, like just stop arguing. I will shoot you in the leg, because this is always my thing. I'm like, if you're in charge, if you have a gun, there are non-lethal ways to de-escalate situations. Shoot someone in the fucking leg.
Especially with a shotgun.
Like, yeah, it sucks, but you're gonna live, and you're both acting like dickholes possessed by aliens that are literally coming to get us. So good for you, girl. Good for you.
So she makes this plea to Richard to be like, I want to help you. It's okay, honey. And then this is the voice where he goes high to low, and it's in high helium voice. He's like, what's happening? And then suddenly low voice, God's will be done.
Yes. Yeah, he's being brain scrambled.
And she fucking
and he's like
shoots
doing
him.
that. He's got that huge knife. He's doing like creepy slow walk. And dude, again, like point 2 for Rachel. She's like, till death do us part. Bye.
Kaboom.
But he's not dead. And this is where I thought the ending was effective, is that, now the floodlight aliens are now fully coming. Yeah. And for me, one of the most compelling parts about this ending is hearing Richard call out Rachel's name as the aliens are presumably sweeping through the house and like melting him. Yeah. And I was like, oh God, like this is kind of compelling. She has made her choice. She's going with young, cute brother.
And they're hiding in
that
that
having
cellar.
to listen to your husband die.
Yeah.
Like, in the hands of, I think, maybe more adept filmmakers with a higher budget, this could have been, like very heart-wrenching, but I was moved by it. I felt it was effective.
Dan was like, I was checking Twitter.
She's like, I got shit to do.
And I don't even check Twitter. No, it was fine. It wasn't bad. It just the rest of the movie was more interesting to me.
It was at this point I was just like, do we get to see? No, we don't see the aliens. Okay.
I didn't want to see the aliens. I actually didn't want to see the aliens, and I was glad we didn't get to see the aliens. I just wanted one more thing. I don't know what it is, but it was like one more thing. Just see
their watches go crazy, or
which
the
we
water.
maybe sort of get in the denouement, but kind of don't. I think.
Yeah.
We're about to hit that point.
I like going back to the comparison to Signs. I think my biggest, for me, where Signs fell apart was the moment. I like the moment we first see the aliens on the camcorder footage. The little Mexico City quinceañera. And it walks through the.
Oh my God, that scene is epic.
That scene is so great. Classic. But then after that, every time I see the aliens, I'm like, oh, this is weird. I feel like I'm at Mars 2112 in Times Square.
One thing that this movie, that Incident at Raven's Gate, got right was at least we know the aliens can handle water on the planet that's mostly water that they chose to come to, as opposed to Signs.
As opposed to Signs in which, okay, let's not get into Signs.
Yeah.
We'll save that for that episode.
So they hide out in the cellar until basically Richard melts away, screaming and howling, and he's gone. And then they climb back out and get on the run. Yeah.
Now here is where we have shitty cop does get his comeuppance, though, right?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the order.
Because Agent Hemmings